Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello, my name is Ghesika Herra Kusnandara from class 4A, majoring in English Education, Syarif Hidayatullah State Islamic University Jakarta. And now I will explain about 10 articles that I read and studied. So the first article is entitled "The Health and Environmental Impact of Plastic Waste Disposal in South African Township", written by the authors Adelia Ayuada and Mitsan Sekrantu. So this article explains and discuss how the development of the increase of number of plastic waste that is littered in cities in the South African region, because most of the population in the region are not aware and don't care about this, which has a detrimental impact on the environmental and health. In addition, South Africa has also experienced a fairly high increase in the use of plastic and result in the amount of plastic waste, which of course also continues to increase. Because of this article discuss the environmental and bad health impact of disposing of plastic waste. The purpose of this article is to make people aware of the importance of reducing the amount of plastic waste, which will have a very real impact on life, both in terms on health and the environmental and awareness, in order to understand how to importance of further knowledge about consequence of plastic goods or waste on humans, especially for cities in South Africa. And the main finding of this research in this article are the health and environmental impacts of waste, especially plastic waste, and increasing annual production of plastic worldwide. And the author also concludes that plastic waste is a serious environmental problem and has been recognized by various studies on global plastic manufacturing and the pollution of the resulting waste. Although plastic also has benefit for life, it must also regulate the amount of use strictly to ensure the safety of a healthy environment. And also the government must implement regulation that can monitor the manufacture, use, and disposal of the plastic. Then the second article entitled "Using Expert Elicitation to Estimate the Impacts of Plastic Pollution on Marine Wildlife" was written by the authors Chris Wilcox, Nicholas J. Meles, George H. Leonard, Alba Rodriguez, and Brita Dennis Hardesty. So the research in this article is like discussing the garbage in the sea, especially plastic waste, while identifying the type and amount of garbage that is often found on the beach, which is the first and very important step to determine the amount of marine debris that contaminates nearly 700 marine species. And the purpose of the research in this article is to identifying the amount of waste and what types of waste are in the oceans, as well as estimate the scale of each organism affected, and by each of the most common types of waste as recorded in the data on beach cleanliness from around the world. The main findings of the research in this article are showing that are many different types of plastic items that could pose at least some risk to marine wildlife, and that protecting the oceans from the effect of plastic pollution will probably require extensive or rigorous solution that can address a wide range of issues. And the conclusion is that the impact of debris on the health of this marine wildlife has been discovered by being integrated by fishing gear, balance, and plastic bags, as well as a wide variety of other items that can pose at least some threat to this organism either through consumption and contamination, or both. And the third article, entitled SARS-CoV-19 Pandemic Induced PPE and Single-Use Plastic Waste Generation Scenario, written by the authors named MD Sazadul Hafiz, Safkat Sharif, Asir Masnun, and Ibni Rashid. And this article discusses and explains the increase in plastic waste that has increased due to the coronavirus pandemic based on the data that has been attached to the article. And this article also describes a comparison between how the situation and the amount of plastic waste was in the period before the COVID virus and the amount of plastic waste in the post-COVID era. And in addition, there was also a discussion about a perspective of the country of Bangladesh on this problem, where Bangladesh is also a country that has an increasing amount of plastic waste, which revealed that a total of 3.4 billion pieces of single-use face masks, hand sanitizer bottles, gloves, and single-use polyethylene bags would be produced monthly and would generate 472,300 tons of single-use plastic waste per day. And the purpose of this article is to identify the amount of plastic waste that reaches the ocean from land source. And this is influenced by the global pandemic, which has exacerbated the situation by generating a large amount of plastic waste, which is mostly mismanaged. In addition, it also has a goal to develop systems and policies for efficient waste management and provide knowledge about the quantity of plastic waste generated. And the main finding of this research is the development of medical-based plastic waste caused by the COVID pandemic. And the conclusion in this article is that no matter that the condition, plastic waste will still be an irreplaceable component of society, especially during a pandemic condition like this, which makes the accumulation of plastic waste even bigger. And the global pandemic has exacerbated the situation by generating huge amounts of plastic waste, most of which is mismanaged. And then the fourth article, entitled Characteristics of Plastic Pollution in the Environment, written by the author named Peng Hui Li, Xiaodan Wang, Min Su, Xiaoyan Suo, Lin Lin Duan, and Hong Wu Chang. And this article describes and discusses the main characteristic of plastic pollution in the environment to increase understanding of this problem. And these characteristics include diversity, persistence, global issues, combined pollution, and threats to organism and human health, which are critically summarized in this article. And also the plastic cycle in the environment, such as the aquatic and atmosphere and terrestrial system, is also discussed in this article. And the purpose of this article is to increase people's understanding of this plastic waste problem. In addition, the review or research made in this article also aims to provide an overview of the main characteristic of plastic pollution in the environment and also to suggest ideas for future research. And of course, investigations into these issues are also very much needed to fully understand the combined pollution of plastic with other substances. And the main finding in the research in this article is that overall the distinctive characteristic of plastic pollution in the environment can be summarized as diversity, persistence, global problem, combined pollution, and potential threats to organism the human health. And the authors also conclude that plastic can directly and indirectly enter aquatic, atmosphere, and terrestrial system by free migration between them. And what's even worse, this plastic waste is prone to accumulation and scattered along the food chain of living creatures, especially animals. Then the fifth article, entitled "Threats Underestimate in Freshwater Plastic Pollution," written by the author Martin C. M. Blatler and Carl M. Watson. And this article describes and discusses three important topics that scientists are also involved in, namely the entanglement of plastic species in freshwater, plastic as nesting material, and microplastic waste originating from household solid waste that is not managed properly. In addition, this article also provides an explanation of how plastic waste is very influential of freshwater animals, which scientists may also underestimate. And the purpose of this article is to reduce the knowledge gap between marine and freshwater environments, because it will be very important. And apart from this article also aims to tackle plastic pollution problems effectively and globally. Therefore, this article was created to strengthen research activities on these three issues that exist in freshwater environments around the world. And the main finding or result and conclusion of the analysis in this article is the more than 690 different marine animal species were recorded to have become entangled in the debris, and more than 230 total studies were conducted. However, the entanglement of animal species with the types of plastic has been completely ignored by scientists in freshwater, and the amount of plastic waste that ends up in swallows' nets, for example, seems to have increased with dangerous and lethal results. Less than 20% of the total surveys in freshwater system have focused on these types of microplastic, and the impact of these debris of freshwater fauna, especially birds, should be studied more intensively and compared to the marine environment. And the sixth article is entitled "Plastic Pollution and Aquatic System in Bangladesh," written by the authors Gausia Wahidunesa Kauduri, Heather J. Coldway, Emily Duncan, Imogen E. Naper, Andy Namzul Hassan, Sarah E. Nelms, Subrata Sarkar, and Sunanda Bola, and Bushrat Nishat. And the article in this journal discusses the current status of information or knowledge about plastic pollution in water system in Bangladesh, and evaluates the existing research gaps, as Bangladesh is an internationally significant country in the plastic pollution crisis. And this article also reviews all available scientific publications on plastic pollution in freshwater and marine environments in Bangladesh, and identify major deficiencies in knowledge and capacity to understand and address these critical public health and environmental issues. And the main of the research in this article is to assess the state of knowledge about plastic pollution in existing aquatic system in a country such as Bangladesh, in the context of rapidly developing international knowledge on this topic or issue. In addition, the authors also seek to understand the knowledge gaps that exist in plastic pollution research in Bangladesh and place them in a broader sense. This was done to assess plastic pollution studies from 3 countries that are comparable in terms of GDP per capita and waste mismanagement of plastic waste, namely Cambodia, Kenya, and Tanzania. And finding in this study identify several focus areas to highlight research gaps that require more attention from the national and international community. It aims to increase knowledge to the issues of assistance in the sustainable conservation of aquatic system, both freshwater and marine. And the findings of this study can be useful for developing an action plan to outline the research agenda and prioritizing research activity. And the seventh article entitled Utilization of Plastic Waste as Aggregate in Construction Materials was written by the authors Nurhani Zulkarnain, Paranggani, Chakchuan, Turkeswari, Ufarajan. And this article describes and explains the use of various types of plastic waste as aggregates in the discussion of construction. And this article also evaluates the use of plastic as aggregates in terms of physical, mechanical, and durability properties of construction materials such as compressive strength, flexural strength, and others. And this article also makes an environmental analysis of the stability of plastic in alkaline environment and also analyze their cost. And this article has a total of 163 previous studies between 2012 and 2021, which have been reviewed to discuss the use of various types of plastic waste as aggregates in construction material. And the purpose of this article is to examine others' perspective on the use of plastic waste. As we know, plastic waste only has a bad effect on human life. However, this article can show other benefits of plastic waste. And in addition, this article aims to raise public awareness to find other ways to replace current waste disposal techniques. And most of the main findings found revealed that the materials produced with plastic material meet construction standards and demonstrate the positive potential of plastic waste to be used as construction material. And from the findings collected, it can be concluded that the incorporation of plastic as a material does cause some from the decrease in the strength of the resulting material, but in terms of quality, it can still be used based on the standards. And the strength of construction materials containing plastic aggregates can be influenced by several potential factors such as the hydrophobic nature of the plastic, which inhibits the cement hydration process from occurring completely on the surface of the plastic aggregate. And the 8th article is entitled Current State of Future Prospect of Plastic Waste as Source of Fuel by author Wong S.L. and Ngadi T.A.T. Abdullah and Inuan. The article in this journal discusses the technology of recycling plastic waste to be converted into fuel due to the depletion of fossil fuel sources such as crude oil, natural gas, and coal. And therefore, many energy sources are renewable and have been utilized. But the potential of several other sources, such as plastic waste, has not been fully developed as a fully scale economic activity. And this development has brought about a great increase in the production of all kinds of commodity plastics, which can directly or indirectly generate waste due to their wide application, as well as their uses and relatively low cost. And the aim of this article is to provide the reader with an in-depth analysis related to the pyrolysis process of plastic waste as obtained in recycling technology. And since the calorific value of plastic is comparable to that of hydrocarbon fuels, the production of fuels from plastic waste will provide a good opportunity to utilize the waste as a better alternative to landfills. And the main finding and conclusion in this article is that there are various methods for converting plastic waste into high value fuel, which have been analyzed with the aim of solving the problem of the shortage of conventional fossil fuels and the environmental degradation effects of plastic waste. And since the pyrolysis of plastic waste incapable of producing liquid products that can be used as fuel, there is great potential for adoption in industrial recycling process. And the next article is entitled Plastic Waste Associated with the COVID-19 Pandemic, Crisis or Opportunity, written by the author named Kwan Seong Ho, Lee Ying Ho, Hoiren Lim, Hui Yi Leong, Kit Wai Chu. And this article aims to close the cycle of the plastic waste life cycle by achieving a sustainable circular economy. In addition, in this article is also to provide knowledge that this pandemic has had a major impact on the management of plastic waste in many countries due to its sudden spike and can cause various negative impacts on the environment, animals, and human health. And this article discusses and current development of plastic waste before and during the COVID-19 pandemic, because the monthly consumption of medical face masks and surgical gloves is estimated at 129 billion and 65 billion, respectively, for 2.8 billion people worldwide. And the world is not only facing the COVID-19 pandemic, but also with increasing waste, which mainly comes from plastic. In addition, this is a cause for concern due to the fact that plastic is a material that has excellent strength, durability, and versatility. And this is not realized quickly, such as plastic cleaning bottles, face masks, and surgical gloves, due to the high volume of production and purchase to meet the demands of society. And the main findings and the conclusion to the analysis in this article is that plastic waste after the COVID-19 crisis experienced a tremendous spike. The consequence during the pandemic is an increase in plastic waste, especially for personal protection and health products. In fact, this plastic have an important role in the fight against the COVID-19 pandemic, because the most of the protective equipment against in this virus is made of plastic. And this consequence will sooner or later occur in the long term and will cause other problems such as health problems and environmental pollution if plastic waste is not handled properly. And the 10th article is entitled Policies to Reduce Single-Use Plastic, Marine Pollution in West Africa, written by authors Ishaku Adam, Tony R. Walker, Joanna Carlos Becerra, Andrea Clayton. So this article was created with the aim of reducing SUP in West Africa. And this prohibition targets the research of plastic waste to minimize the amount of plastic entering the ocean with the target of using SUP. In addition, this article also aims to reduce the sources of land clean plastic waste in this area. And this is important because the majority of West Africa's population lives in coastal cities where per capita plastic consumption is higher than in the interior. And this article discusses and explains the policy of reducing single-use plastic, especially in West African countries. Countries in Africa are increasingly taking policies to reduce the use of single-use plastic so that the pollution caused by plastic waste can also be reduced. In addition, the design and effort of the SUP reduction policy in West Africa are also discussed in this article. And of the 16 countries, 11 have implemented the ban. This prohibition provides severe penalties for violators, namely with an imprisonment. And the main finding and conclusion of the research in this article is that several countries in the West Africa region have taken initiative to reduce the use of single-use plastic items, especially mostly for plastic grocery bags. And these are some of strategies that can raise awareness about single-use waste pollution and thereby help stimulate an innate desire to reduce SUP consumption. And it can be concluded that the 10 articles are related to impact of plastic waste of pollution in several countries such as Africa, Bangladesh, and others. In addition to having a negative impact of animals, especially animals in the ocean, plastic waste is also very impactful for human health and environmental. Plastic waste is generated from people, especially coastal residents who often use plastic objects, and in fact, plastic waste has also increased due to the COVID-19 virus outbreak that has occurred in recent years. However, a recent fact that I just learned is the upside is that plastic waste can also be recycled in building materials. And the point is actually plastic waste can be reduced if the management is done in the right way. Okay, that's all from me guys. Thank you so much for listening and watching my video. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.